If you're thinking about moving to Utah and buying a home here, there's something I want you to start thinking about that you might not have thought about just yet, and that's data centers. And as soon as I say data centers, some people watching this are immediately triggered, and some people are asking, why should I care about data centers when I'm looking for where to buy a home? And that's exactly why I'm making this video. Utah is experiencing a massive boom in data centers that support AI growth. And I'm not going to spend the next 15 minutes telling you whether data centers and AI is good or bad. That's a much bigger debate. Instead, I want to talk to you as somebody looking to buy a home here, because if you're moving to Utah, you aren't just buying the house and the lot that house is sitting on. You are buying into the land use decisions that have already been made about everything around that house. And that's what I want to help you investigate. Now, first of all, it is important to understand that we have had data centers in Utah for years and years and years already. The reason it's getting talked about now is because the amount of power usage basically and the amount of water usage that ties in with data centers specifically for AI is much more intense. But we've had data centers here for years. In fact, there's an NSA data center in Bluffdale on your way south through Bluffdale on your way as though to go to Saratoga Springs. There's a big old NSA compound that's just a data center on the west side of the hills as you're driving down towards Saratoga Springs there. It's been there for 12 years. So what's changed is the scale and the intensity of the data centers and what's necessary for them. AI data centers use an enormous amount of power. That power is letting off heat, and so you end up needing a lot of cooling. And right now there are several projects for data centers proposed and under construction in Utah that are talking about requiring several gigawatts of power, and that is huge. That's a very different land use question than the NSA data center, for example, that's just been quietly sitting in the community for over a decade. So that's where this becomes relevant to buying a home. So what should you actually look for? I've got several questions I want you to be asking if you are looking to move into an area that has a data center already, or definitely if you are looking to move into an area that is a part of or adjacent to a lot of continually developing land, particularly in rapidly growing Utah communities. So I'm definitely talking about Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, Lehigh, Harriman, Bluffdale, and South Jordan. There are some others, but that's the area closest to where most people in Utah want to live that we expect to see data center issues either currently or popping up in the near future. Question number one that you should ask is, what is the land around you zoned for? And this is probably the most important question. Let's say you find a house you love. It's got a beautiful backyard. Maybe there's a field behind it. Maybe you've got a beautiful mountain view, and you think, awesome, nobody can build behind me. But that's not necessarily what you bought. What you may have bought is something more like a house next to an undeveloped industrial parcel of land. And those are two very different things. So before you buy a home like that, I want you to ask, what is the property behind me they're zoned for? Not just that property directly behind you, but look at surrounding parcels and everything around you. Is it zoned for residential? Is it zoned for commercial? Is it zoned for agricultural? Is it zoned for industrial? Is it zoned for mixed use? And if it is zoned for mixed use, what exactly is authorized in that mixed use? Because there's an important distinction here between there's not a data center here and there's no data center planned here. And there's another important distinction between there's currently not a data center planned here. That doesn't mean that a data center couldn't be planned there in the future if the zoning could allow it. So if the zoning allows for industrial or large-scale technological facilities, that's something you want to know. Another question I would ask is, what does the city plan for this area? Zoning tells you what can be built, and the city's general plan or future use land map can tell you what they plan on putting here over a longer period of time. So if you're buying on the outside edge of a rapidly developing town like, say, Eagle Mountain, Utah, you should definitely be asking, what's the long-term plan for the land around me? Because it could be more homes, could be apartments, could be commercial buildings, could be movie theaters, could be retail, could be a school, it could be an electrical substation, it could be warehouses, it could be industrial facilities, it could be a road, it could be an electrical corridor, a transmission line corridor, or it could be something else entirely. And this is where I encourage you to do something very simple. Go to the city's website, find the zoning map, find the general plan, and find the future land use map, and then at least skim through the Planning Commission and City Council agendas. There'll be PDFs that you can read the minutes of, because the first sign that something is changing in your neighborhood is not going to be a billboard close to your home that says data center coming soon. Your first sign of what's coming is going to be found in those meetings where the Planning Commission is planning. And they'll be looking at zone changes if they're changing anything that looked like it might have been a good place for you to move. Okay, question number 3, where is the electricity going to come from? This is one area data center issues can get very interesting, because if somebody wants to build a 500 megawatt data center, that's not just a large industrial building, that's a colossal electrical load. And that electricity has to get there somehow, and that could mean power generation, transmission lines, substations, local distribution infrastructure, data centers. There's a whole chain of things that could be coming out from the data center, and that's important to understand. So if you're buying a home near one of these projects, I think you should care about more than just the building itself and where it is. You need to ask, where's the electricity coming from? Because you could be several miles away from the data center and still be affected by the way the power gets to it. You may have a substation nearby, you may have transmission lines nearby or going over or through your property, and you might have construction activity while this stuff is all being put together. And all of that could be a potential big bother to you wherever your property is. And another very important question relevant to the electrical load is, who pays for that extra electrical load? If a massive new electricity customer moves in and requires hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure upgrades, somebody has to pay for those utility upgrades. Now, Utah actually has some fairly specific protections here that a lot of other places don't have. In 2025, just last year, the legislature passed a law requiring large load customers, including relevant data centers, to pay the incremental costs necessary to provide the electricity and the infrastructure necessary. And then this year, in 2026, Governor Cox issued an executive order that directs state agencies to follow a broader framework of policymaking around data centers and the load that they need to create in order to function. So the state is clearly trying to protect ordinary utility customers from having to take on the extra load when these large data center companies come in and electricians are putting in huge amounts of new infrastructure that's going to increase the cost of electricity in the whole area, not to mention just the construction of that upgraded infrastructure. But I wouldn't interpret any of that as a guarantee that data center development won't affect your electric rates. The details of how each project is structured and how the utility recovers its costs still matter. All right, what about water? And this is particularly important in Utah, obviously, because we are in a desert. Some data centers use water-intensive evaporative cooling. Some data centers use a closed loop system of cooling. Some use air filtration cooling. Some use other liquids for cooling. So I'm not just gonna state that data centers consume millions and millions of gallons of water, because that's a little too simplistic. A better question is, how much water is a data center going to consume and where is it coming from? Is it municipal water? Is it groundwater? Is it agricultural water? Is it reclaimed water? Is it something else? Utah actually passed legislation this year requiring greater transparency around where the water comes from and how much is going to be used for proposed data centers. And so this is data you can find, and I encourage you to ask those questions and check it out. A related question to the energy infrastructure: are there power lines? Are there transmission lines? And where are they going to go relevant to your property that you're interested in? And this is another really important one if you're looking at property that's on like the edge of a developing rural community or a rapidly developing community like Eagle Mountain. You could have 10 acres, there's nothing behind you, there's nothing around you, there's no proposed zoning anywhere close to you that suggests that you might have a data center being put in close to you. And then you could discover that there's a proposed transmission corridor running right through your property. And that can change things pretty dramatically pretty soon. Now, I want to be clear here, I'm not saying the building of a data center means that the government can come and take your house. That's not how this works, but utility companies can use eminent domain for access to property for things like transmission lines and power lines. And that eminent domain action wouldn't mean that they took your entire property away, but it would involve obtaining an easement or right-of-way across or over your property. And of course, that'll affect you and where you live and your property. That can affect your views, that can affect your quality of life, that might affect the value of the home. So if you're buying a large piece of land, particularly close to a lot of undeveloped area, I would ask this question to find out, are there any proposed, not just data centers nearby, but transmission corridors that could be going through my property here? That's definitely information I'd want to know before I bought the property, not after. Okay, let's say you ask all these questions and maybe you don't even mind, but you still need to ask a question: what is it going to be like to live close to one? These things run 24 hours a day, around the clock. They have power generators, they might have natural gas stations for power. the cooling systems, the fans, all of that running around the clock can be very, very loud. So if you're within a quarter mile of one, I suggest you don't just go check out the property and be outside and listen and pay attention to the noise level in the middle of the day, 2 o'clock on a weekday. I recommend you go to such a property if you're interested in it at that proximity to a data center. I recommend you go at night and just park in front of the house and roll down your windows and listen. Because a facility that may sound perfectly acceptable during the day may tell a totally different story to you when you're there at night and there's nothing else to listen to. Traffic could be another big question around the development of a data center. Now, most people understand, and correctly so, that once a data center is built, it requires minimal employees to actually run the place. So you might have a huge data center that only requires a few dozen or 100 employees to run. And if you're not bothered by the proximity of it, but you would be bothered by constant traffic around your home, don't just think of the traffic once the place is completed and the construction is done. Think of the traffic and the upheaval that may be happening while it's under contract, because it will take several years to build. And all during that time, there's gonna be a lot of dust kicking up, construction workers being loud and all of that. That noise and traffic is something else to consider. So don't just ask how many people will work there. You probably also wanna ask, when is construction taking place and how long will it last? One final thing you might wanna think of is just your view, right? So maybe you don't mind the noise, maybe you don't mind the light, but if there's a data center in the way of your view, in Utah, it would be mountains, or down out over a valley perhaps. If it's in the way of your view and it's just this colossal, windowless, perpetually well-lit, loud building that's in the way of your view, then that may affect your opinion of the quality of your life in that area as well. So again, to summarize, here's my checklist for you. Questions I think you should ask. What is the property around me zoned for? What does the city's future land use plan look like? Are there any pending zoning changes? Where will any major new electrical infrastructure be located? Who is paying for that infrastructure? How much water will a nearby data center consume? And where is that water coming from? Are there any proposed transmission corridors or substations? Are there any existing utility easements on the property? What will the actual noise, lighting, traffic, and view considerations be like? And lastly, just for yourself, even if you're okay with anything that may be the case with everything that we just listed above, finally, what will the actual impact be to you of the noise and the lighting and the traffic? Okay, so the overarching lesson that I want you to take away from this video isn't whether data centers are good or bad. I'm not telling you don't buy near a data center. I'm not even telling you don't buy near industrial property. Some people won't care. Some people may prefer to be closer to certain kinds of industrial projects. And some data centers are going to be far enough away that you're never going to notice them or their impact. The point is simply know what you're buying and know how it will affect you and what your preferences are. Because you're not just buying a house. You're not just buying a house in the lot that it's on. You're buying a neighborhood. You're buying a community. You're buying into the city's zoning and planning. You're buying into what the surrounding vacant land could become. And if you're moving here to Utah from another state, you may not know how to find that information well, and that's where I come in, ready to help. If you're thinking about moving to Utah and you're trying to figure out not just which house you like, but which community is actually going to fit your life for the next 5 or 10 or 30 years? That's a different question, and I think it's one that we should be able to help you answer before you make any final decisions on buying a home. Don't just look at the house, look at what can happen around it. And hey, if you found this video helpful, do me a favor and just subscribe and maybe like it, comment on how it was helpful, and know that I'm making videos that are hopefully very helpful to you as you look at moving into Utah. Thanks for watching this week, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, bye-bye.